Hi, folks. I'm Bob Schrupp, physical therapist.
Brad Heineck, physical
Together, we
therapist.
are the most famous physical therapists on the
Well,
internet.
in our opinion, of course,
Today,
Bob.
Brad, we're going to talk about 3 things you should never do if you have osteoporosis. And I think these are pretty solid issues, in my opinion.
Right. Unlike the solidness of the spine with osteoporosis.
Right. Wow, what a segment.
I thought that was a segue.
Yeah, so, by the way, if you are new to our channel, please take a second to subscribe to us. We provide videos on how to stay healthy, fit, pain-free, and we upload every day. Also, go over to Facebook and like us because Brad and I, as children, we're not liked. It's a sad story, and we're trying to turn things around.
Why, Bob?
I don't know why, Brad.
we
Okay,
go.
so let's talk about number 1, Brad. Your bones obviously don't have the density that they should have
Sure.
with osteoporosis, and you're going to be more susceptible to certain injuries. And the one that we see quite often is a compression fracture.
Right. So with osteoporosis, oftentimes not everyone, but typically as you get older in your 60s, 70s, more so with females, but
Right.
men have it too.
Yep, very good point. And a common way to get a compression fracture, which a lot of people don't realize, so here we got the spine. It's lined up. You want to show how it's lined up, Brad?
Sure.
It's lined up. You're in the right position right now.
Right.
So a common way to get a compression fracture actually is just to go ahead and bend forward like this and do one of 2 things. One, if you fell, that would put a great compression on the
Sure.
spine.
Yep.
Or 2, actually, if you just lift something heavy and your back is in that rounded out position, just like that, you could develop a compression fracture just from that move. So if you're going to lift something heavy, 1, you may want to rethink it, but 2, you want to make sure you're in really good posture so everything's all lined up.
Sure.
So we're going to demonstrate in a second here why this bending forward like this can cause the compression fracture.
I also want to add another common one is people when they sit down, if they fall into the chair.
Oh, sure.
And older people, it's relatively common. They'll kind of plop into the chair, and that can really put some compression.
Yeah, they're in that rounded out spot. Now watch this. This is what happens.
Boom. Yeah.
And a lot of times the compression fractures happen right here where we call the hinge.
Sure.
And it's on these thoracic area here where they...
T11, T12,
Yeah, T12, that's where we
L1.
often see it. So let's go ahead, let's say that's T11 and T12 right there,
Right.
Brad. That's thoracic 11 to thoracic 12, the mid-back.
Right. Yep.
So actually we could have T10, 11, and 12, wouldn't we? So we got three vertebrae here, and Brad's going to show you what happens when you go ahead and round out the back and you have weight on there. Now, yep, that's what can happen. The bone can actually compress down.
So that's that rounding forward, and then you sit down and you plop, or just because the osteoporosis means that vertebra is weak, it doesn't have the integrity, and it's not going to accept this kind of force, and they just crush.
Yep. And sometimes they actually inject cement in there now to try to rebuild it up again. But it's, once it's done, it's done.
Right.
I mean,
it's not going to expand back out like our cushion here.
Right.
It just has to heal the way it is. And they can take, months. A lot of people are pretty uncomfortable for months, usually a few weeks, and they're getting better. But then we're working at not bending forward, not plopping, because that just re-injures it and re-aggravates it.
Yeah, so when we have somebody with a compression fracture, we really avoid any bending forward at all. We might even do a little bit of bending back. But, with osteoporosis in general, posture is very, very important.
Right.
All right, the second one is going to be obvious to everyone. I apologize for including it, but there are things to help prevent this from happening, and I thought we'd go over some of those.
Sure.
So the second thing is you got to try to avoid falling. I mean, you got to, more than anybody else, if you're one of those prideful people that say, hey, I'm not going to use a cane or I'm not going to use a walker, well, you know the saying, Brad, pride happens before the fall. And, I see people all the time that should be using a walker, should be using a cane, and they're not because, they're saying, I'm not old.
Right.
And then they fall and they really start acting old because now you're dealing with pain and you can't walk and stuff like that. So we're going to show you with the next step, we're going to show you some exercises you should do which actually help prevent you from falling.
Sure.
So, and that is the third thing that you should never do. You should never not exercise.
Right.
I think a lot of times people start getting older and they think, I don't want to exercise because I might hurt my back or I might hurt the legs, but your bone responds to exercise,
Right.
and it actually becomes a little thick, and it's called Wolff's Law.
Wolf, oh,
Yeah.
you caught me off guard there, Bob. I was thinking about some exercises, as well as when you exercise, we're going to show you how to exercise properly, because sometimes people do exercise and they put their back in that compromised position.
Very good point. Posture is so important with osteoporosis.
Right.
In fact, let's talk about let's to help prevent falls. Let's show a couple exercises in that, but we'll show some posture exercises too.
Sure. Okay.
So the first one, which is a great one to do, Brad, is just a sit to stand, because
Right.
what that does is it's getting weight through your legs.
Yep.
And even strengthening helps increase the bone density
Sure.
too. So what we like you to do is to go ahead and, when you're sitting in a chair, and that's why Brad and I are not big fan of those lift chairs, by the way, unless
Right.
you absolutely have to have them, because if you have the chair lifting up for you all day, you're losing your strength and you're losing your density of the bone there.
Right.
So all you're going to do is you're going to scoot to the edge here, and you're going to go ahead and use the arms if you need to start off with. And I want you to do some repeated sit to stands. Now, the whole thing you got to remember about this, if you're having trouble getting out of a chair, your nose has got to get over your toes. I mean, if you try to stand straight up like this,
Yeah. You
you're gonna
may
have
flop backwards,
right.
and then you've got that problem with your back.
The other thing I want you to keep in mind is to try to keep good posture. Don't be rounded out like this and getting up.
Yep.
Keep straight up. Just lead with the chest a little bit.
Sure,
Is what
right.
you want to do. So, and you can go ahead and, every time you get out of a chair, if you don't want to exercise, pick a time of day to exercise. Every time you get out of a chair, you can do 5 sit to stands before you
Right.
get out of a chair. And people will start to talk about you. They'll go,
Right. They'll
"What's-
say, you say, I've been watching Bob and Brad, and this is what they say, and
Yeah.
you'll be okay then.
I've been watching that Heineck kid. Every time he tries to get out of a chair, he takes 5 tries. And he's like, no, he's not getting 5 tries. He's just getting strengthening. So that one really helps the hip extensors, which really helps you with your balance.
Right.
The other one that really helps you with your balance are the hip abductors.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
muscle that goes out to the side. You want to show that, Brad,
Sure.
on here? So,
So usually it's nice to go on the back of a solid chair. You got something to balance.
or a countertop.
Yep. And we're just going to simply do this. Notice I'm not doing this. Keep tall, good shoulders back. Focus on everything that's right with posture. Working that hip right there. These hip muscles are really important for your stability with walking, just to keep your gait solid, which is also going to help you with.
And look how he's got good posture.
Yes.
I mean, he's trying to keep really, posture, posture, posture. All right, next one, Brad, I want to show a couple stretches. One is when you're just in your chair. You want to go ahead and, again, it's about the posture, Brad. Hate to keep coming back to it. You're going to want to make sure, because what happens quite often is your chest gets tight and it starts pulling you like this, and you're going to round out. And you're going to be more susceptible to that number 1 injury where, you lift stuff and you're in this bad posture.
Sure.
So you want to chest your stretch. Stretch your chest. So you can do it in a number of ways. One, you can bring, your arms back like this. You can put your arms behind your head and bring your elbows back. That's stretching your chest. Another way is just to put your arms behind you like this, and this stretches your chest.
Sure.
But another stretch you can do for your back and for your chest is to go ahead and use a ball like this.
Get a soft one, nice soft squishy one.
Yeah, you can get it from, like Brad says, you can steal it from one of the neighborhood children, and you'll get a reputation then.
Well, give it back to them after you're done.
Well, when they kick it in your yard, it's yours,
Well,
right?
yeah, well, of course.
Okay, so you can just bend over like this, and what's nice about this, Brad, you're stretching the chest, but you're also stretching the mid-back.
Right.
That spot that tends to be vulnerable.
And if you've got shoulder problems where this is uncomfortable, you can do it with your hands down.
Yeah, you
as
can
well.
go like this even.
Sure.
And I like it the wall because you can move it up and down, Brad. It can go into different spots. So it works out really well that way. All right, a couple more stretches. How about one in bed, Brad? The hamstring stretch, I think, is always a good one to do. Otherwise, it's going to be pulling on your back. All you have to do is you can bring your leg up like this, bring it forward, and then stretch your leg up like this.
Yep. And this is nice because you're taking the stress off the back. If you try to do some of these hamstring stretches in a chair, oftentimes they promote flex posture, put pressure on your spine, where this doesn't.
And I like the next one I like to do is to actually just get a little nutrition into the back and some movement in the back. So when you get up in the morning, just do some twisties, we call them, or you call them windshield wipers, don't you, Brad?
Yeah, because it reminds me of the old windshield wiper.
So we're going back and forth like this, and this just loosens up the back, gets it ready. And then the final one, you know, when you get off the edge of the bed, or you can do this in a chair, I want you just to put one leg off the edge like this on the end of it, and the other one bring it back like this. And you're stretching that hip flexor right there.
So he's getting that leg to come back. You'll feel it right where that front pocket is, hopefully. These should all be, you know, just feel like stretches. They should not create any sharp pain. If they do, you need to not do them, avoid them.
Yeah, the reason we really like stretching the hip flexors is that muscle will pull down on your back and pull you in that rounded out position here. So, you know, hey, everybody out there, be safe. We don't want to see you, you know, coming into our clinic with a compression fracture.
Did we mention anything about posture, Bob, how important it is? Just wondering.
Nag, nag, nag. That's all we do.